This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. When it comes to clearing sidewalks in the winter, how clear is clear enough? As CBC's Cameron McLean reports, Winnipeg City Councillors are considering a plan that would change the way sidewalks are plowed.
The City of Winnipeg's sidewalk clearing policies only require it to clear residential sidewalks down to a hard snow surface. But if one city councillor gets his way, the city would try out clearing sidewalks down to the bare pavement in neighborhoods across the city, something disability advocates have called for. All right, are you okay getting over this?
Yeah, I can get over that, I think. Actually, I'm going to use your shoulder, though.
David Crone knows what it's like trying to get around in winter.
I mean, would be impossible. I've fallen and I don't bounce like I used to. I used to get up really easy. It's a concern. That's why I have spikes on the bottom of my cane.
Crone is an advocate for people with disabilities. And he says the way the city plows the sidewalks can make leaving the house a dangerous endeavor.
A lot of my members just don't go out in the winter. Or they have to arrange for a private carrier to take them door to door, or they can't just wheel down the street. It is a real issue.
The city already plows downtown sidewalks to the pavement. A proposed pilot project would pick one sidewalk in each of the city's 15 wards and plow those to the same level. It's an idea brought forward by St. Boniface councillor Matt Allard.
If there's a will, we could do this, even if it were four sidewalks across residential neighborhoods in Winnipeg. And I think we need to move in this direction.
Council has already rejected Allard's proposal to clear sidewalks to the pavement once before. The city said it would damage the machines. This time, Allard included a list of sidewalks he says are in good enough condition to try. The Public Works Committee will vote on the pilot project next week. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
One of the most powerful Conservative politicians in this country is stepping down. Candice Bergen, who represents the Manitoba riding of Portage-Lisgar and who was interim leader of the party, resigned today. The CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now live from the newsroom with more on this. Ian, what is Bergen saying?
Well, she's saying her 14 years as an MP have been incredible and fulfilling. She said back in September of last year that she would not seek re-election, but we did not know when she would quit until today. In a tweet, Bergen wouldn't tease what's ahead for her, but says her spirits are high.
I'm choosing to leave now, not because I'm tired or I've run out of steam. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I feel hopeful and re-energized. Hopeful for our strong and united Conservative Party and our caucus under the courageous and principled leadership of my friend Pierre Poilievre.
Bergen climbed the ranks of the federal Conservative Party, ending the long gun registry when she was a member of Stephen Harper's government, and more recently serving as interim party leader. Political scientist Kelly Sauder says Bergen made a big impact.
We see that upward progression for her in a way that we don't, unfortunately, see often enough for women. So I think that is quite incredible. And the fact that she took over the party at a particularly tumultuous time. Of course, she stepped into the role as leader of the opposition after Erin O'Toole left the position. And the party was very divided. And so, you know, she was chosen from amongst the ranks of the Conservative caucus to really lead the party and bridge those factions.
Her tenure wasn't without controversy. Bergen initially supported the truckers' convoy in Ottawa.
Now, Ian, Bergen's departure means a by-election in Portage-Lisgar is going to need to be held. What might be more interesting is who wins the Conservative nomination in this riding. It's a Tory stronghold, isn't it?
That's right, Janet. Former Manitoba Finance Minister Cameron Friesen is in the running, but his win is no guarantee.
All we see is higher taxes, woke liberals, and less freedom. Justin Trudeau is trying to ban, outlaw, and marginalize our rural way of life.
Brandon Leslie, who ran Bergen's 2019 election campaign, is in the running for that nomination as well. And he's already taking jabs at Friesen for supporting COVID restrictions.
Mr. Leslie has come out swinging and hard. And so I think it's going to be a very competitive race there. And it looks like, you know, quite perhaps a little bit of a dirty one as well.
Former provincial Tory staffer Liz Reimer is also seeking the nomination. Janet.
We'll be watching what happens. Thank you so much, Ian. That's our Ian Fraser reporting live from the newsroom tonight. Dougald Lamont has asked a court to hand a harsh penalty to Premier Heather Stefanson. That is, if a judge decides the Premier violated conflict of interest rules. CBC's Bartley Kivas has the latest on the Liberal leader's lawsuit against the Premier.
Under provincial rules, MLAs in Manitoba have 30 days to disclose property sales. Early last year, Heather Stefanson said she took longer than that to file paperwork about the sales of 3 Winnipeg properties. They were sold by McDonald Grain, a company that listed Stefanson as a director. She apologized for the late disclosure in January 2022, but Manitoba Liberal leader Dougald Lamont took her to court in May. He wants a judge to decide whether Stefanson violated Manitoba's Conflict of Interest Act. In an affidavit filed in November, the Premier said the late filing was an oversight. She said, "I simply did not direct my mind to whether the Act required a special filing in respect of this disposition. Any failure to comply with the Act was inadvertent." Lamont says that's not good enough.
Manitobans should know when their MLAs are getting $30 million or doing $30 million deals, especially when they're the future Premier, and just saying, well, I made a mistake or it was inadvertent isn't good enough.
In a new legal brief, Lamont identifies the penalty he wants for Stefanson. Lamont wants the Premier suspended from the legislature for 90 days. He also wants her to pay a $5,000 fine. Political scientist Paul Thomas called a suspension of a sitting Premier a nuclear option. Lamont says a suspension isn't even the maximum penalty for violating the Conflict of Interest Act.
This is one of the only laws in Manitoba around conflict where an MLA can be removed from their seat. That's how serious it is. So if you can't be bothered to do something which is going to lose you your job, that to me is a problem.
In a statement, the Premier says her government is strengthening conflict of interest rules, and she stands by her affidavit. The court hearing over Lamont's conflict of interest complaint is slated for 2 Mondays from now, on February 13th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The City of Winnipeg has dropped its lawsuit against one of the subcontractors involved in building the Winnipeg Police Headquarters. A January 19th notice of discontinuance filed in the Manitoba Court of King's Bench says the city is no longer suing Abesco Limited and its owner, Wally Fast. The document doesn't say why. The city had alleged that Abesco submitted bills for unrelated work, effectively defrauding taxpayers. The lawsuit against the contractor, Caspian, and dozens of others is still ongoing. A 5-year RCMP investigation into the construction of the headquarters building ended in December 2019 with no charges laid. The college that regulates Manitoba's physicians is apologizing for racism in medical practice. It says it has failed in the past and the present to respond to racism against Indigenous people. The College of Physicians and Surgeons of Manitoba delivered an apology yesterday at a conference hosted by the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. The college admits racism has affected the medical care that Indigenous people have received, or that they should have received but did not. AMC Grand Chief Kathy Merrick says the apology gives her cautious optimism. Dry January, the annual effort by some people to see if they can go without alcohol for a month, has ended. And now the Canadian Cancer Society is promoting a Dry February challenge. For people curious about what life would be like without booze, this conversation goes beyond a single month or campaign. CBC community reporter Namponde Londe explains.
With the hemp in it specifically.
The owners of Sober Market are prepping for a big day, the opening of their storefront. They launched their online business 6 months ago, and orders for the non-alcoholic drinks they sell have been pouring in. The Halliburtons are passionate about alcohol-free drinks that, unlike pop or juice, are sophisticated and adult. They say having these options can mean less stress when socializing.
It almost creates a release. Some can look at that, they can purchase one of those beverages, walk around with it, they don't feel out of place. They feel like they're still partaking in the celebration the same way everyone is.
Leanne Kissel created Soul Brew here in Winnipeg. She calls it a functional herbal elixir. She says that the reason people may or may not be drinking isn't just about taste.
I've often thought that looking back in my, drinking days, I wasn't looking for the alcohol. I was looking for connection. I was looking to connect with community and hang out with friends. And I think we just often associate it with alcohol.
Soul Brew elixirs contain adaptogenic ingredients like ginger, chamomile, and lion's mane mushrooms. The Sober Market says these adaptogens can potentially boost energy and immune health or have a calming effect, similar to sports drinks and herbal teas. Registered dietitian Chiwe Asagwara says people should always consult their healthcare provider about how adaptogens could affect them personally.
People need to really be thinking of their own health. So concerns might be if they're taking other supplements, if they're taking any prescribed medication.
The Sober Market hears all kinds of reasons why people are looking for non-alcoholic drinks.
The Halliburtons say it doesn't matter why someone chooses not to drink. They just want them to have options. They say the demand has been growing, which is why they're opening their storefront here in Winnipeg's Exchange District on Thursday. Nampande Lande, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As of this summer, Winnipeg travelers will be able to take direct flights to 3 new cities. Discount carrier Flair Airlines announced today that it is increasing its flights out of Winnipeg. Starting in June, it will add direct flights to Victoria, Kelowna, and London, Ontario. Flair's Eric Tanner is excited about the additions. He says after years of not traveling, people are done putting off trips. But they're also looking for ways to save, given the rising cost of living.
Inflation or otherwise, people are ready to travel. It's just a question of which price point they want to travel at. And we feel that Canadians deserve low fares, and so that's what we're bringing.
Tanner says Flair will increase the number of flights from Winnipeg to Toronto to 3 a day. It's also adding daily service to Vancouver and to Calgary. Big changes could be in the works for the northern end of Smith Street, reaching Winnipeg's Exchange District. The City of Winnipeg may realign the road, effectively closing off the area in front of the Burton Cummings Theatre. Its plan would create new turning lanes onto Notre Dame Avenue. The city was already planning to rebuild Smith Street when True North Sports and Entertainment, owners of the Burt, suggested closing off the street and expanding the park in front of the theatre. City Council's Public Works Committee will consider this idea next Tuesday. A free program at the University of Winnipeg offers self-defense classes to Indigenous women as a way of building confidence and a sense of personal safety. The program was created due to the growing awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Videographer Kevin Nipatebo dropped into a class.
You got it? Yes! Come on, you got it? Yes! All right, okay, let's go.
Learning self-defense, it's not about being violent, it's about protecting yourself and having that confidence, just building that confidence in yourself that you're able to go catch the bus alone, and feel okay doing that.
You know what I mean? If it was me, but the reality is I can escape because I'm on my feet, first of all, right?
So it's a really good way that people can gain more than just techniques. Friendships happen, and also that they don't feel alone because they're not alone in what they deal with as women.
Let's make a line here. Have one on this side, do easier. Then you can see. Everyone on that side, face this way. Okay, left side, everyone hold your left hand.
As Indigenous men, it's important that our women are safe and feel well and should feel safe, So I think that's important, and people, if they invest in it, then all we get is benefits, because then the mom or sister or aunt can come home, or in some cases grandmother is able to feel confident just going to the corner store and get what she needs and go home without, having to live in fear.
Free self-defense programs are not something you see very often. This program was really important to me to provide an opportunity for people to feel empowered and to feel confident in who they are and to just feel safe.
I need to defend. She chooses to strike, I need to know she's got fast hands, right?
I want to walk away with knowing that if a situation should arise, that I'm going to be safe, like we should be able to do.
If you'd like to learn more about those classes, just Google University of Winnipeg Self-Defense and it pops up. February. It's February now, and February is Black History Month. It's an opportunity to honor the legacy of Black Canadians and their communities, from their ongoing pursuit of equity and justice to their contributions to our country's cultural richness. CBC's Abimbola Odonini asked some young Winnipeggers what Black History Month means to them and if that meaning has changed over the years.
It's an important month, not just for Black people, but for everyone, because it enlightens people about the history of Black people.
It's when you celebrate something that you understand the significance to others.
I think it has changed just because we're being honored. We have an entire month to ourselves. I don't think it was that way a while ago, and then now everyone is acknowledging it. We have like events to support Blacks in the school. We have things to support Blacks, and then I don't think we're still as stigmatized as before.
I think one of the things that happens is that there's a lot of pressure put on Black individuals to do a lot of emotional labor during this month and act as teachers to everybody else, but I would like to see us step away from that and do our own work ourselves instead of getting people to do it for us.
It's a month where we recognize the history of slavery and everything that's happened in the past, but it's also a month to teach also the young ones too, and show them that you're Black in this nation and you're capable of so much more.
Create space for learning and for growth, and to open up more space in our minds, so we're not passing so much judgment, I think.
Back then it was because racism was a law. We had a lot of racist guys, but now everyone is blending in. We're no more that racist, so we're all in a new generation anyway, so things have changed.
Meteorologist John Sauder joins us now on this first night of February.
Yeah.
It seemed a little warmer today.
Yeah.
You say that purple, that cold warning is still in effect?
Still there. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's been extended. Every region in the province right now is in an extreme cold warning. Not really about today's weather in southern Manitoba, but what's to come, and it's an Arctic front moving in tonight. All right, let me show you the warning areas and how extensive this is. It covers all of the southwest. Remember, yesterday the southwest wasn't quite in the extreme cold warning, but now we have it right across the south and all of northern Manitoba. Every little square inch of our province is in this warning. How extensive is it? Most of Saskatchewan, most of northern Alberta, and a big chunk of northern Ontario. This is a wide, extensive swath of cold air that is over us, at least for now. It's only minus 16. The wind chill is at minus 24. We actually need a wind chill of around minus 40 to get a warning here in the south. So we're not quite there. So the warning is in effect, and I'll show you why. South winds right now at 15. Pressure continues to fall a little bit. Looking at satellite radar, we have seen that increasing cloud that I was expecting and talking about yesterday. And on radar, you can see the little patches of gray here, and that is some snow that is going to move across the province tonight. A little more organized right around the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border. A skiff of snow. Officially, a skiff is less than a centimeter, if you get my drift. Now, you see the clearing to the north? That is a cold front, and that will continue to move across into southern Manitoba as we work our way into the night. As this front approaches the Winnipeg area, it carries with it north winds 30 gusting to 50, so any new snow is going to blow around, but only briefly. Winds die down overnight, skies clear up. It's a bright Thursday, but a very cold Thursday. Temperatures will struggle to get past the mid-minus 20s, and then on Friday, we're back into cloud cover. The cold air moves away, but it's a windy day with a patch of snow here that'll move through in the south around midday and maybe up to 5 centimeters across northern parts of the province. Now, I've been talking about a bit of a warm-up, but not until temperatures really drop tonight. So we may even warm up a little bit into the evening hours, and then the temperatures really tank as those skies clear. What's to come? Ridging in the west, and that means the jet stream moves up to the north. That's an upper-level ridge. This is an upper-level trough, and that means cold air for us, coldest air on Thursday. But look at Saturday. We're looking at above zero temperatures out in Alberta. Not that warm in southern Manitoba, but closer to seasonal, more like a -9. And then as we get into Monday, we'll be within a few degrees of the freezing mark. So yeah, it really warms up into next week. But -26 tonight, a little bit of evening flurry activity or light snow. -28 for the morning low, and the best we'll do in the afternoon with a bit of a gusty wind is -24. So that extreme cold warning will stay in effect right through the day on Thursday. Friday, windy, but -17. Pair of -9s on the weekend. May see a little bit more light snow on Saturday. And Janet, when I come back a little later with the 7-day forecast, you're going to like what you see by about mid next week.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. Looking forward to it. A play premiering at Prairie Theatre Exchange tomorrow and running until the 19th explores a reality many Black families live with: the fear that someone they love could end up the victim of violence or police brutality. The play is called Our Fathers, Sons, Lovers, and Little Brothers. I spoke with its playwright and performer this afternoon. Makambe K. Samamba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell me what inspired this play, Our Fathers, Sons, Lovers, and Little Brothers.
The piece was inspired by a number of internal questions I had about what it would be like for there to be a missing place at my dinner table if, God forbid, something were to happen to my little brother. When Trayvon Martin was killed, and I got to hear about the story, my younger brother was around the same age. So there was something about this particular murder and this particular experience that it sort of resonated in my body differently. And I really asked myself what it would be like to say goodbye and mourn somebody who was close to me, who had lost their life to this type of violence. So that first question in that investigation led me down this really incredible creative path to be able to create this piece.
There's so many questions, and very sadly, we've been through as a country and as a world, a few high-profile deaths of young Black men since the death of Trayvon. And this is the very day that Tyre Nichols' funeral is being held. I'm wondering how you feel about this, what it's been like preparing for this run when we're going through all the pain again.
It's not easy, but at the same time, it does kind of remind me of the purpose of this work. It reminds me of the purpose of why I'm creating this piece and the kinds of conversations that I would like to come out of it. And it also reminds me of the importance of using the work to hold space for Black communities so that we have a safe space to mourn and grieve and process. And so I'm devastated about Tyre Nichols, but not surprised that these things continue to happen, because the awareness of that is what propels me in continuing to create and perform the show.
What are you hoping audiences get from the play?
Well, I primarily, first and foremost, made the piece for Black audiences to share space and to be able to have a safe space to let these emotions go. When we see these really brutal images of people who look like our family members being murdered and lynched, it does something to our brains and our bodies and our spirits. And I think that I want to create space to process and release some of that energy in a space that prioritizes, celebrates, and understands the multifaceted existence of Blackness. So I want, first and foremost, for Black community to be able to have that space and know that it's there. And I invite any allies who wish to also join in the work to understand the intention of the work and understand why it's so important to have that space for Black folks and to support its intention. And to be willing to sit with the anger and discomfort and frustration of these issues, because I believe that the more that we sit with it and really let it bother all of us on a deep level, the more we're going to be able to do something and enact the change that we all need to see.
Makombe K. Samamba, thank you so much for bringing your show here and for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
One of Manitoba's greatest philanthropists has died. Marcel A. Deshotel was named to the Order of Canada, the Order of Manitoba, the Order of Ontario. In 2008, he gave $20 million to the University of Manitoba Faculty of Music. It was the largest private donation U of M ever received, and one of the biggest gifts to any music department in Canada. Deshotel was a lawyer with a passion for concerts and singing. The Deshotel Faculty of Music says his donation changed the lives of hundreds of students.
Having that ability to be able to concentrate on their music, allowing these students to really excel, has been a really amazing gift.
A Franco-Manitoban, Deshotel also made generous gifts to Université de Saint-Boniface. A pavilion in his name houses USB health science and social work programs. He gave more than $100 million to post-secondary schools across Canada. Marcel Deshotel was 88 years old. Coming up, the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations is taking aim at a workplace investigation launched into her conduct. Roseanne Archibald calls the probe colonial. More on this ongoing controversy coming back. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. The National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations is taking aim at a workplace investigation launched into her conduct. Roseanne Archibald is calling this probe colonial. She's also expressing concerns the investigators are not Indigenous. CBC's Olivia Stefanovich reports.
6 months after the Assembly of First Nations launched an external investigation looking into bullying and harassment complaints against the National Chief.
If I can have the video played, please.
One of the investigators told First Nations leaders Roseanne Archibald refuses to cooperate.
Meaningful steps to move the investigation forward cannot take place until they are able to have that interview with her.
Now the National Chief is firing back. In a memo obtained by CBC News, Archibald told First Nations chiefs she's troubled the investigators hired by the AFN are not Indigenous, and withholding key information she says she needs to defend herself.
There should be a new process that's grounded in cultural traditions and moving away from the colonial processes.
Archibald's latest defense comes after the AFN CEO, one of 5 employees who filed complaints against the National Chief, announced plans to resign next month.
When AFN is strong, First Nations advocacy is strong, and I hope to see whatever turmoil that they may be in, cleared up.
Despite the concerns, the federal government says it doesn't intend to pull its multi-million-dollar financial support for the AFN.
This type of situation obviously is one that we're not saying we are blind to, but we do have to take a healthy distance and allow them to sort out their affairs internally.
Where is the accountability and transparency?
Some chiefs are demanding the Assembly get back to its core job, helping First Nations people.
We can't have this in an organization. We got so many issues to deal with in our communities, clean drinking water, the housing, the infrastructure, racism, and so forth. And we can't be mired in internal struggling.
The controversy surrounding the National Chief continues to distract the organization. The AFN is planning a special Chiefs meeting in April in the hopes of finally putting the matter to rest. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal government's newly appointed representative to combat Islamophobia offered an apology today. Amira El-Gawabi says she understands comments she made about Quebec's secularism law she made these comments a few years ago, were hurtful to some, and she's sorry about that. But that didn't stop her calls for her resignation, calls that came from other people. Marita von Stackelberg reports.
A meeting and an apology.
I'm extremely sorry for the way that my words have carried, how they have hurt the people of Quebec.
A different tone from less than a week ago.
I have nothing to apologize for.
Amira El-Gawabi now says she's sorry for the way an opinion piece she co-wrote 3.5 years ago was received. It criticized Quebec's controversial Bill 21. It bans public servants from wearing religious symbols like hijabs. In the piece, she referenced the poll that found 88% of Quebecers who held negative views of Islam overwhelmingly supported the ban. She equated that to anti-Muslim sentiment.
I believe she does not know Quebec. She does not know our history.
The leader of the Bloc Québécois demanded El-Gawabi meet with him. Afterwards, she called it constructive.
As a member of Canada's Muslim communities, we know what it's like to be judged. In the course of my efforts to bring awareness to the various ways that we face discrimination, the way that I described that caused hurt.
The Quebec government calls her comments hateful and anti-Quebec.
I'm glad that she apologized, but she still have to resign.
The Prime Minister stands behind her appointment.
What we need is a conversation about the fact that we all agree that rights and freedoms need to be protected.
Clearly, it's about votes in Quebec and trying to make sure that they don't alienate white Francophone voters.
This advocate says she should not have apologized. He says anyone appointed to the role would hold the same view of Quebec's ban on religious symbols.
And the job that needs to be done is to call out Islamophobia and hate against Muslims across the country. And one of the biggest perpetrators of that in this country is the government of Quebec with its Bill 21 law.
El-Gawabi says she agrees to disagree with Quebec politicians about Bill 21. She says it's just one of many issues facing the Muslim community, and her focus is on starting a dialogue about all of them. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
The funeral for Tyree Nichols was held today in Memphis, Tennessee. The 29-year-old died after a brutal beating by 5 police officers. Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy.
I can't speak for everybody in Memphis. I can't speak for everybody gathering. But for me, I believe that that man had been white, you wouldn't have beat him like that night.
Family, friends, and activists gathered to mourn Nichols and pay their final respects 3 weeks after his death. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris was among the mourners. Nichols died on January 10th from injuries he'd received from Memphis police officers who pulled him over while he was driving home. The 5 police officers, who were also black, have been fired and charged with second-degree murder. Pope Francis presided over one of his biggest masses ever on his tour of Africa. More than 1 million people attended today's service in the Democratic Republic of the Congo's capital, Kinshasa. Francis made an emotional appeal to end the violence in the region and asked Christians involved in the conflicts to lay down their arms. The Pope met with victims and heard harrowing accounts of killings, rape, sex slavery. Eastern Congo has seen decades of armed violence as rebels and militia fight for control of mineral riches. Millions of people have been killed. More than 5 million have been forced to flee their homes. Still ahead, people in one Canadian city talk about becoming a tourist destination for cannabis consumption. That story's coming up, as is John Sauder with your Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. It has been more than 4 years since this country legalized cannabis, and now people in one Western Canadian city, Edmonton, are talking about becoming a tourist destination for consumption. Think dining and beverages. CBC's Natasha Reeb has more.
A bustling Italian bistro in downtown Edmonton serves the comfort food you might expect. For now, Eliza Zanari is ready to get creative with cannabis.
I can just envision like a mushroom sauce with like a bit of cannabis or, something just to pull out the earthiness of the flavor.
She's among a group of business and tourism leaders pushing to expand the potential of cannabis in Edmonton and Alberta. More than 4 years after Canada legalized cannabis, products are sold strictly in stores. This group is now lobbying the city to make changes.
What we're talking about is not just edibles and drinks from cannabis retailers, but infused made to order drinks from a mocktailer who can actually infuse cannabis like they do with alcohol, or a chef who can actually use cannabis as a food ingredient to create a non-inebriated experience.
Before that can happen, the city would have to amend its zoning bylaw and add a category of business license. Myson says if they do that, it could help turn Edmonton into a cannabis destination. City Councillor Michael Jans plans to make the case this spring for zoning changes. His ward Papasteo includes White Avenue and Happy Beer Street, or 99th, where he says local business owners want more diverse entertainment and tourism options.
One of the ideas that's come up is the idea of cannabis cafes, the idea where you could go and have a cannabis-infused experience, be it food or others, not necessarily smoking it, but either ingestibles or something else. We've seen around the world and in other jurisdictions, there's a greater interest in experiential tourism. So cannabis has been a part of that.
When the zoning bylaw review comes up, another councillor says she'll be raising red flags.
When, the level of intoxication, it can be unpredictable, especially for new users. And it could be a concern if someone were to leave an establishment and were driving home.
The province says it is reviewing its Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Act and may amend the legislation, a needed piece before Edmonton can become a cannabis destination. Natasha Reeb, CBC News, Edmonton.
Meteorologist John Sauder joins us once again. I guess Edmonton and other places out west are going to have quite a balmy weekend, eh?
Yeah, with that upper ridge that I was talking about building in, looking at temperatures between 3 and 5. That's plus on Saturday afternoon. That's kind of moving this way, but not quite that warm. Have a look at these Saturday afternoon temperatures out to the west of us. Yes, 3 in Edmonton, 5 in Calgary. I think Calgary's got a shot at about 8 degrees on Sunday. All the while on Saturday afternoon, we are at -9 in Winnipeg, but at least that's closer to seasonal, and at least it's a little bit milder than what we've seen through this week. By that time, the extreme cold warnings will have ended. Right now, -16 at the airport, -15 downtown. That'll go down as the daily high today. Temperatures around the region within a few degrees of that. A little cooler in Morris at -18. Out to the west, we're -15 in Brandon, -18 in Swan River, and -19 up in Barons River. Gimli checks in at -17 at the moment. And then the really cold stuff already behind the Arctic front. We're looking at anywhere from -25 to -34 across northern Manitoba. So these are the current temperatures, and they're going to fall a little bit as we head into the overnight period, even from there. A couple of centimeters of snow as this little weak disturbance moves across Manitoba and then into the overnight period into northwestern Ontario, but it'll be followed by some clearing by morning. So that's really when temperatures will fall to these values closer to the sunrise time. Here we see a little bit of evening snow, then some clearing and some windy conditions as well. Winds will pick up around midnight to 1 a.m. north, 30 gusting to 50 kilometers per hour, and then they drop off to about 20 to 30 as we head into the morning hours. Look at the overnight lows here. -30 in Brandon, again some evening snow followed by clearing. -32 up in Swan River. We're already at -34 in Churchill, as you saw, but the overnight lows -36s for Churchill, Gillam, a -34 tonight in Thompson, and -35 in Island Lake. And then tomorrow still very cold. Pretty much province-wide, Frostbite in minutes, more like 2 to 5 minutes in northern Manitoba, 10 minutes or less here in the south, and temperatures will struggle to get past the mid-20s. Winnipeg, -24 tomorrow afternoon. Steinbach at -25. Barons River at -28 for a high, and mid-20s as well in northwestern Ontario.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Good temperatures for staying indoors. We're going to pull up a chair and take a seat at the table for a look at the world of board games after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. You roll the dice, you take a turn. Manitoba ran last weekend at the Bronx Park Community Center. It's an annual tabletop games convention where people can come together to play board games and even role-playing games. CBC community reporter Shanna Lee Vidal was there and brought us this story.
Game on.
Manitoba is a tabletop gaming convention, which means that We play board games and role-playing games and card games and miniatures games. Pretty much any kind of game that can be played on a table, we'll be playing it here at the Bronx Park Community Center. You don't have to know anything about board gaming. You don't have to know anything about any of the games that we're actually playing, because we have over 250 slots where you can sign up.
Now you're passing to the right.
And we have someone who is passionately in love with the game teach you a game. We also have a library of over 700 games where you can just go wander through the library, and if you see something that catches your eye, you can pick it out, sign it out, and come sit down and play it.
I'm gonna play Thor's Glory. I love playing games, I like collecting games, and it's hard to know before you buy sometimes whether you're gonna like a game or not. So having a place where you can meet up with like-minded people and try new games, it's a great time.
It's good to come down here and you can learn the game with the game master and some friends if you bring some friends along, and yeah, it's just a good time.
I've been every year since the game Manitoba started. I'm happy to be back.
This is Arcane Dominion. It's a game that I designed.
We have a number of local game designers here showing off their games. Many of them will be running their games all weekend. You can sit down, you can talk with the designers about the design of their game.
Role-playing games are amazing because they can take you out of your ordinary life and bring you into a world of fantasy. And in my belief, the more freedom you have over your character and over what you can do in a fantasy world, the better. And that's what Arcane Dominion tries to do the most.
A lot of them are selling finished product. A lot of them are still in development, so you can actually be part of developing a local board game, which is a really great experience.
And the cryptid be here.
I originally got into it with my kids. It was a great way that we could spend time together. We would sit across the dining room table, and there's not very many other ways that you can sit around a table for an hour with your teenagers and talk.
You can hold the trophy.
If someone wins a game, we have the winner's wall, where you get to go stand with your game box and our Game Manitoba trophy and get your picture taken.
Smile.
And there's just a lot of bragging rights that happen. The board gaming community in Winnipeg is fantastic. This whole thing is run by volunteers. It is run by people who are passionate about this one shared hobby, and we all have such a wonderful time. It really is a full community effort, and we love it.
Looks like so much fun. We'll have to try to remember to tell you before time next year. I want to go. John Sauder's back with your 7-day forecast after the break, and your daily lift is still to come. Stay with us.
Coldest day of the week, likely tomorrow. Winds will be northwest around 20 to 30, producing some pretty high wind chill factors. A temperature of only -24. Windy -17 on Friday. And then over the weekend, we get back closer to seasonal. Seasonal -11, para -9s here. A little bit of snow starts to work into the forecast as well. And look at Wednesday, all the way to -1. Now, for sure, on Wednesday next week, kids will be outside for recess, right? But when the weather gets as cold as it's been this week, school playgrounds are quiet and the students stay inside.
The announcement, indoor recess today, met with a mix of emotions. Some students love it, some not so much. CBC's Jim Agapito brings us the Daily Lift.
Hi, my name is Emma.
Emma, okay, this is the quietest indoor recess. I feel like you're being good just for me, but what do you normally do for indoor recess?
We usually, sometimes we would watch a movie, or most of the time we play card games.
Are you playing, Marcella? Yeah. Yellow.
Okay.
No, we have to flip the card.
My name is Gavin.
And what do you like doing for indoor recess?
I just like to chill on the couch and watch the movie.
Marcus could do Lego.
You like staying inside for indoor recess. Why is that?
Because it was too cold outside, that would make me sick.
Who here is kind of sad that they're not going outside? Oh, I see someone right here. Okay, 2 people. Okay, I'm gonna ask you first.
Raiden, Duque, Bobulas.
Raiden, okay. You're sad that you're not going outside for recess. Why is that?
Because I don't get to play soccer.
Soccer? You play soccer in the snow?
Yeah.
My name is Carlo Talay. I'm the grade 5-6 Filipino bilingual teacher here at Artery Wright. Usually what they do is they have a table here playing Uno. We have some students. I usually put on a movie in Criterion on Demand for kids who just want to chill in the couch there. Some people read a book. Just having options for them. For example, like if they like art, just let them color if they want to. If they like to watch movies, just let them watch movies. Board games are fun because it teaches them how to collaborate with each other. And also teaches them the skill of competition. It's not always about winning.
You do a movement break. Could you show me what a movement break looks like?
You get down, get up, when you get down, get up, tell me that it's time for Africa.
Do you mind the temperature?
No, not really.
Even when it's like -25?
No.
Why is that?
Because I'm Canadian.
Because he's Canadian.
Because he's Canadian. I love the activity, you know, if they're going to stay inside. But I know I would be one of the kids that would want to go outside and run around.
Now, you were telling us something today about how different regions, different areas have different criteria, different temperatures.
Yeah, some schools, a wind chill of -27. I think that one was -29, but it's right around that mark for a wind chill.
And the city of Toronto?
Much, much less.
Oh,
yeah, like
you won't say
-20.
it. Extreme cold, yeah. I'm getting the rap from my friend in Toronto.
See ya.